guys, welcome back to The Bright Side. Macy here, the Bright Side Girl, and today we're going to be doing my Hikeathon reading wrap up. So we're going to be talking about all the books that I read for Hikeathon, my nature, fitness, springtime, survival themed readathon. I will link all of the reading vlogs up in the cards and down below in the description where I talk about all these books. We go on lots of fun hikes, we do some nature themed restaurants and all kinds of fun stuff. So be sure and check that out. I read a total of 13 books for Hikeathon. I did 11 on audio and 2 physically. One was a graphic novel. I do work mostly from home, so I'm able to do audiobooks while I am working. And I love listening to audiobooks, so I'm able to consume a lot that way. This was possibly the best readathon I have ever done, both in the enjoyment for the books that I read. Almost everything was a 4 to 5 star except for like maybe 2 or 3 books. All of them like really encompass like the vibes that I'm wanting for Hikeathon. And then also we did 16 different hiking trails. Some were like less than a mile, some were 3.5 miles. We went to the mountains. I've been feeling really good and energetic and happy. We had so many people participating on Instagram. It was just such a fun time. This I think is my official favorite readathon of the year. Happened a little bit last year too, but this year just kind of confirmed it. Like I had such a blast. So without further ado, we're gonna jump in from least favorite to favorite reads. All right, first confession time. I have an hour left on audio of In the Lives of Puppets. I was just not able to finish this before the readathon ended. I talked about that in the last reading vlog. I have a lot of thoughts and feelings, but we are gonna save them mostly for my May reading wrap up. Since I still have an hour to go, I don't know like how much my feelings are gonna change in that last like hour. There could be a lot to come, so we'll save my thoughts on this for that one. Right now, it's sitting at like a 3.5 for a particular reason, so stay tuned for that. I did count this one as finished for the readathon. I used it for the characters on a journey badge. I tried to hit a badge for each individual book, and I got really close. I think I only missed flowers on the cover. I didn't hit it all. Okay, I had no DNFs this readathon, no 1 stars, no 2 stars, and only a couple 3 stars. So one of them was the graphic novel Explore Mystery Boxes by Kazu Kabish. This is actually like a cute graphic novel. I was expecting, based on the title and the cover, for it to give me these kind of vibes more, like an explorer and magical things happening. This is a collection of short graphic novels, so only the last one has this kind of vibe, which kind of affected my enjoyment of it. They were all really quick, cute, and fun. They were middle grade. I enjoyed most of them, but it just wasn't anything like amazing. All right, then coming in next at a 3 star was What Lives in the Woods. I've been holding this one off. I couldn't decide if I wanted to do it for Hikeathon or if I wanted to do it for Not So Scary-a-thon. This is a middle grade kind of spooky mystery. Our main character's dad gets a job like fixing up this house in the woods, kind of restoring it to sell, and he drags his whole family there. They all are kind of upset about it because they have different summer plans that they wanted to do, and this house has all this mystery around it and all these kind of creepy stories about the woods and different things. My main issue with this one is it is not about the woods, like at all. Like they mention it once or twice, but they don't go into the woods. It's not really about what lives in the woods. Like it was just so weird. I know the authors don't always have control over the cover or the synopsis of the book, but they usually have control over the title. I just feel like this one was just pitched incorrectly. A little bit more of like a haunted house, spooky manor mystery. It has a lot more to do with the house and the town and creepy things happening. It was definitely a cute, fun middle grade. My other issue though was the main character is obsessed with Agatha Christie. She even like reads the books before bed. There's like this spooky mystery happening, and as soon as it happens, she wants to leave and make the whole family leave instead of like investigating it. I found that kind of odd. It is a cute, fun one. It's not too spooky if you're looking for something that's a little bit creepy, but very mild. So I will be checking out more from this author, but unfortunately this one was like a 3 star. All right, next for a survival read, and a lot of the books I read worked for this. This was like a 3.75. Disaster Days by Rebecca Bayron. This is about the island of Pelling in Seattle. Our main character is 13 and she's doing a babysitting job. She is fully prepared. She's taken a babysitting course and she's very excited to watch these 2 younger kids, and they're on this island and you have to take like a ferry to get to the island. I think the parents of the kids and her parents work off of the island, so they are not present. And then they have these major earthquakes that happen that shut the ferries down, shut off power, make the houses kind of unsafe because like the fridge falls over and things fall out. They basically have to try and survive and figure out what to do. Our main character has asthma and she's kind of of dealing with that as well, and like trying to handle her own health issues and also kind of grow up a little faster. I thought this was a really good middle grade survival story. It had somewhat realistic circumstances, but it didn't feel like too intense, I feel like. The narrator for this one wasn't my favorite, but she was fine. Overall, it was like a 3.5, 3.75. All right, next we have The Girl in Red by Christina Henry. Again, I have been wanting to read this for either Not So Scary-a-thon or Hikeathon for like literal years. I absolutely love Christina Henry's mermaid book, The Mermaid, and also Lost Boy, which is a retelling of Peter Pan. This one is a loose retelling of Red Riding Hood. I also used this one for the survival read bag. So I really enjoyed this book. We're set in this like post-apocalyptic plague type world, and it's just kind of starting out, and our main character is kind of like a worst case scenario survivor preparer at heart, and there's this plague happening, and then people will like get sick and die, and her family are kind of trying to figure out like what to do, and she has like this plan in mind that she wants to go to their grandmother's house and stay there, and things kind of happen that separate the family. She winds up going on like this journey to stay alive basically, and different things are happening along the way, and you're not really sure what's going on because it seems like there's more than just the plague. Like there's some creepy things happening that are a little bit more almost supernatural feeling. I really loved the narrator for this one. She did a great job. This one has a lot of mixed reviews, and I understand why. I really enjoyed it, even though it had some things that I don't normally enjoy. Like our main character is kind of unlikable. She's very negative. There's some kind of unrealistic survival experiences happening. Our main character is able to kind of find food easily with these like abandoned houses and grocery stores and things. That felt like not too unrealistic, but I kind of understood people wanting a little bit more of her like struggling to find things. It had a very nature heavy element. She was outside a lot. She was dealing with kind of aggressive people occasionally. She has like a half prosthetic leg that she has to deal with also and kind of like overcome along the journey. And so that was kind of an interesting element. And I really liked the reasoning for things that were happening at the end. I can see this one being very hit or miss for certain people. The tone of the book had a little bit more of like a darker vibe than what I normally like, but I still really enjoyed it. I don't know why. I found our main character really enjoyable. I like the way that it ended, even though it was like a little bit slow along the way. So take this review with a grain of salt, but this one was like a 4-star experience for me. Then we have The Nest by Kenneth Opel. I know I own this book, or maybe I unhauled it and I don't remember. I read something else by Kenneth Opel like a year ago that I really enjoyed, so I kept this one. This again is a middle grade novel. I believe it's considered a middle grade like horror spooky kind of a book. It's very hard to explain. It's very whimsical. It's more of a novella because it's extremely short. This one I used for Bug on the Cover, which I really liked that challenge. In this one, our main character recently got a new baby brother, but he is very sick and they're constantly having to take him to the hospital and do different things to kind of see if he's going to live. And this causes a lot of anxiety in the family, and also our main character kind of has like these OCD tendencies. Been having these different nightmares and things, and a lot of just like stress and pressure on the family. And then there's this whole like side element with wasps. I don't want to give it away, but it was extremely unique. It is very dark. I did find it much more on the like spooky side, especially for middle grade. Reviews from like adults saying like, I wouldn't let my middle grader read this because it was way scarier than I anticipated. Like there was definitely some scary stuff. And then I saw other people saying my middle grader read it, absolutely loved it, and they were fine. So I would read it first if you want your middle grader to read it, just to make sure. It's really, really short. It is definitely like darker in tone, but again, I just really enjoyed it. I really liked the narrator, and I thought it was so unique. So I wound up giving this one a 4-star. Next, No Beauties or Monsters by Tara Gojin. This one, again, is just such a unique read. I use this one for Mountain on the Cover. First of all, this is one of my favorite covers ever. It's so beautiful. So this is a YA standalone. I don't really know how to describe it because it's not a fantasy. It's not really sci-fi, but it's not really a contemporary. It reads like a fever dream of a book. So I'm going to read you the synopsis just so I don't like spoil anything. So Riley hasn't been back to the US military base in 29 Palms since her father died. She left a lot of memories out there buried in the sand of the Mojave Desert. Memories of her dad, her old friends Nathan and Lily, and most of all, her enigmatic grandfather who cut ties with Riley's family before he passed away. But her mom's new work assignment has sent them to 29 Palms again, and now Riley in the one place she never wanted to return to. At least her old friends are happy to welcome her back. It turns out Lily is gone, vanished into the desert. To make matters worse, there are whispers around town of a mysterious killer on the loose. But it isn't just 29 Palms that feels frightening. There's something wrong with Riley too. She's seeing things she can't explain, explain visions of monstrous creatures that stalk the night. So I wouldn't consider this one scary, but it definitely has like that kind of creepy, spooky vibe about it. It reads kind of like a fever dream because Riley is a bit of an unreliable narrator and you're not really sure what she's actually seeing and what's actually happening. You're going into the past at certain points and kind of uncovering things as you're trying to figure out all these mysterious things that are going on. This one is definitely a slow burn. This is the only physical book that I read for the readathon. Because of that like fever dream mysterious quality, it definitely is just a slower read. I didn't mind that though because the desert atmosphere, being in 29 Palms, like Joshua Tree area, I've been there before and I really enjoyed those kinds of elements. They go like hiking and they're uncovering different things. Ending was very good and unexpected. So if you go into this one, just know that you're going in for like the atmosphere and uncovering a mystery, but it definitely is a slower burn. So I still gave this one 4 stars though because I thought it was so unique. All right, next we have You and Me at the End of the World by Brianna Bourne. This one worked for the characters on a journey reading badge. I read this one because I thought it was going to be a little bit more survival post-apocalyptic, but it was different than I expected. In this world, Hannah and Leo wake up and no one else is around. They spend like a couple days by themselves and then they wind up finding each other. And it's basically like an end of the world situation, but nothing has really changed. There's just no people present. The world is not like falling apart around them. There just aren't any people anywhere and they don't know why. So they spend a few days kind of like exploring and kind of enjoying this newfound freedom that they aren't kind of latched into their old personalities. Hannah is like a ballet dancer with a lot of pressure from her mother and herself to kind of perform well and reach certain goals. And so she can kind of let that go even though she has an upcoming audition, or she did, that she's kind of worried about. And then Leo is kind of this charming, selfish musician and he kind of gets to be free and discover a different version of himself as well. And so you're just following them around this world. It doesn't really have like a dire vibe about it, but they're uncovering things about their personalities and learning about each other and falling in love. And this one again was a little bit slower, especially in the middle, but I really loved the ending in particular and just like the journey. Like they're doing kind of cute, fun things. It reads kind of like a YA rom-com, but then it has that ominous like why is everyone gone thing in the back of your mind. And I really love the ending to this. I am not a big contemporary person, but this is one that I really enjoyed and I really loved the characters. So this one was a 4-star for me again. Next we have The Distance from Me to You by Marina Gessner. I've been wanting to read this one for Hikeathon for forever because we have this little like camping, mountain, heart, trees on the cover. This one we're following McKenna and she's fresh out of high school. She wants to hike the Appalachian Trail with her friend, but her friend winds up getting like a new boyfriend and deciding not to go, and so she decides to go by herself but not tell anyone that she's going alone. While on the trail she meets Sam, who's kind of skipping out on school and kind of getting away from his abusive dad. He's kind of like finding himself while he is on the trail. They kind of wind up joining even though they're heading in opposite directions and continuing this journey together and falling in love. Again, this one reads kind of like a contemporary, but I really loved that the entire book they are on the Appalachian Trail, they are hiking, they are making fires, they're getting food, like they do get to stop in on towns and stuff. That's kind of how you're able to do it. There's a lot of camping, nature, and hiking. I really loved the atmosphere of this one. I did really like our characters even though there was some kind of weird drama that happened between them along the way, but the atmosphere and the ending of this one kind of made up for any like small issues that I had, and I just found it was so unique. The absolute perfect book for Hikeathon. It gives you all of those like nature, hiking, camping vibe. So this one was again a 4-star and I used this one for the Set in Nature badge. Next up is What the River Knows by Isabella Ibanez. I will admit at first I was kind of going to give this one like a 3.75. I still have kind of mixed feelings about it. I actually have 2 amazing Fairy Loot editions of this book. It is so beautiful. This one is pitched kind of like the vibes of The Mummy. It didn't really give me those vibes, but it is set in Egypt, in Cairo, and there is like this cool treasure hunting element that I really enjoyed. So in this one, we're following Inez Oliveira, and she belongs to a glittering upper society of 19th century Buenos Aires. And like the rest of the world, the town is steeped in old world magic that's been largely left behind or forgotten. Inez has everything a girl might want, except for one thing she yearns for the most: her globe-trotting parents, who frequently leave her behind. When she receives word of their tragic death, Inez inherits their massive fortune and a mysterious guardian, an archaeologist in partnership with his Egyptian brother-in-law. Yearning for answers, Inez sails to Cairo, bringing her sketch pads and a golden ring her father sent her for safekeeping before he died. But upon arrival, the old world magic tethered to the ring pulls her down a path where she discovers there's more to her parents' disappearance than what her guardian led her to believe. Again, I felt like this one was a tiny bit slow in the middle because it is very long. I did enjoy the audiobook narrator for this one. Inez is an unlikable character for most of the book. She kind of has that spoiled, entitled, but like overly dramatic tendency about her. She very much reminded me of Emma from Jane Austen, and also of the main character Mary Lennox from A Secret Garden. She referenced some classic books like that in here. I think they even referenced Emma, so I think that's where she got the inspiration. So she's kind of got that like spoiled entitledness about her, so kind of keep that in mind. It works well with the story. We have this kind of gruff love interest with a dark past. I did wind up enjoying it overall, especially the ending. I liked the vibes being in Egypt. There was some cool plot twists in here. A lot of people are doing like 5 stars or 2 stars for this, and I can kind of see why. It's a YA romance. It's very clean, very adventurous. Definitely got a slower middle part, so just kind of keep that in mind. And Inez is kind of obnoxious at first, but I wound up liking it, and I'll definitely be reading the second book. Next, we have The Nature of Witches by Rachel Griffin. I did this specifically for the Elemental Magic badge, but then upon reading it, I realized it will work well for the seasonal reading badge more. So for centuries, the witches have maintained the climate, but now their control is faltering as the atmosphere becomes more erratic, the storms are more destructive, and all hope lies with Clara, a once-in-a-generation ever witch whose magic is tied to every season. In autumn, Clara wants nothing to do with her power. It's wild and volatile, and the price of her magic, losing the one she loves, is too high, despite the need to control the increasingly dangerous weather. In winter, the world is on the precipice of disaster. Fires burn, storms rage. Clara accepts that she's the only one who can make a difference. In spring, she falls for Sing, the witch training her, and her magic grows, and so do her feelings for him, until she's terrified he will be the next one she loses. And in summer, Clara must choose between her power and her happiness and her duty to the people she loves before she loses Sing and her magic, and the world is thrust into chaos. It's so good. This is set like at a witch school, but it's very different than like a traditional like YA magic school. It's like mostly outdoors and very nature heavy, and all the witches are in different seasons except for Clara. We have a very heavy elemental magic seasonal vibe about it. We talk a lot about the seasons and nature. There's like storms that they're controlling. The atmosphere is superior. I did enjoy the love story as well. I really liked the love interest, and I enjoyed the ending as well. So again, another 4-star. All right, next I had 2 5 stars, which is amazing because I've had very few 5 stars this year. I will say I am more lenient with my 4 stars than my 5s. The 4s, I just have to enjoy the majority of the book overall and like kind of be willing to reread it again in the future. For 5s, I want it to like emotionally do something to me. I want it to stand out in some way where I'll be thinking about it in the future, or like overly recommending it, or move my soul, or do something. My first 5-star, this was my favorite book of the readathon and my current favorite book of the year. The last book I'm going to talk about is the best one for the readathon. We'll talk about that in a second. So I did The Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson, finally, and I specifically picked this one up because it has a bird on the cover, and that was one of the reading badges. First of all, one of my favorite narrators does this audio. I do think it's slightly superior on audio to physically reading it because she's so good, but the writing style in this is epic. So this is a young adult standalone fantasy. It is a fae fantasy. We're following Isabel with the flick of her paintbrush. She creates stunning portraits for a dangerous set of clients, the fair folk. These immortal creatures cannot bake bread or put a pen to paper without crumbling to dust. They crave human craft with a terrible thirst, and they trade valuable enchantments for Isabel's paintings. But when she receives her first royal patron, Rook, the Autumn Prince, Isabel makes a deadly mistake. She paints mortal sorrow in his eyes, a weakness that could cost him his throne and even his life. A furious Rook spirits Isabel away to his kingdom to stand trial for her crime, but something is seriously amiss in his world, and they are attacked from every side. With Isabel and Rook depending upon each other for survival, their alliance blossoms into trust and perhaps even love. This might be my favorite fae story, you guys. It was like simple, but so unique at the same time. I'm obsessed with Rook. I loved the romance. It was so good. It was YA, so it was very clean, not spicy at all. I found it so enchanting. I loved the magic, loved the different fae. I loved Isabel talking about her art and what they wound up doing with that. There was just such magical, fun beauty to this book. It was written so well. I am so obsessed. I just thought it was gorgeous. I cannot wait to read Margaret Rogerson's other books now because her writing is so good. Like, this is one that I feel like if you don't think you're gonna like YA, start with this one because the writing in itself is so good. It doesn't have like a teenagery vibe about it at all. It reads kind of like a fairy tale, and I adored it and I gave it 5 stars. Then lastly, my favorite read specifically for the readathon was The Lake House by Sarah Beth Durst. I did this one for the camping badge, one of my favorite badges that we did this year. I didn't really know fully what to expect to go into this one. I knew that it was going to be kind of leaning on the like scary horror side, but I read something else from Sarah Beth Durst a few years ago that was like such a fun read, and this one did not disappoint. In this one we have Claire, and she's grown up cycling through every worst case scenario possible, triple checking locks, counting her steps, second guessing every decision. It's just how she's wired. Her worst case scenarios never actually come true until she arrives at the off-grid summer camp her parents sent her to, only to find a blackened burned husk where a lodge should be and no survivors. Claire and the other 2 late arrivals, Reva and Mariana, are the only ones left with no cell phone service, no electricity, no shelter, and no way back to civilization. It becomes very clear none of this is an accident, and someone or something is hunting them. Something that hides in the shadows, something that refuses to let them leave. If they want to get out of there alive, these 3 will need to do more than survive. They'll need to unearth the truth no matter how long it's been buried. So good. They basically have to get to this camp by a ferry, and so when they get dropped off, the guy that drops them off leaves, and so they have no way to get out of this area, and they're very far away from civilization. The camping lodge is burned down. They find a dead body that does not look like it was killed by the fire, and so they think something is dangerous and they're having to survive. They are in nature and surviving the entire time, so I loved that. The atmosphere was fantastic. I really liked Claire. She was kind of snarky and negative, but it didn't bother me. She has like a nice arc throughout the book. I loved the 2 other girls. I really liked the friendship dynamic because it didn't really ever get like catty, even though that happens a lot in survival books. They kind of like banded together and became friends and like loved on each other, and it was so like sweet, but it had those like creepy kind of spooky survival elements still. There were a lot of different scenarios that they had to go in. The twists in here are so good and so unique. I just really loved it. I wish we had another book because it was so good, and this makes me extra excited for Sarah Beth Durst's upcoming books because she's quickly becoming a favorite author for me. So again, this is a young adult standalone. It's kind of considered a horror thriller. I didn't find it super scary, but it definitely has some creepy elements, so love. Okay, you guys, so that is everything that I read for Hikeathon. I had such an amazing time. Let me know your ideas for future badges because I think I'm just gonna keep all of these badge ideas and then just add on so that we can pick and choose as we go along. So any ideas that you have for activities or reading badges, let me know down below in the comments because I'll be planning them out for next year. Let me know if you read any of these books or saved this video for your TBR for next year's Hikeathon. And I want to thank everybody who participated because your photos and everything were so fun on Instagram. So make sure you guys are following me on there at The Bright Side Girl because there's so much happening on Instagram and it's so fun, especially during the readathons. We had so many people join in this time, and I feel like Hikeathon has really like found its place in the book community, and it took a little bit for that to happen. So thank you to everyone for participating. Let me know what your favorite read of Hikeathon was down below in the comments, and I will see you guys next time on The Bright Side.